Hi Alisa, I decided to take both of your questions because they go very closely to something we started in episode 32, was it 32? Yeah? Where we discussed low-key and high-key shooting in wildlife photography. Now, most of you, all of you should know how to over and underexpose in camera, yes? If not, end of video, ask me a question, I'll get it answered. Once you know how to do it, the difficult thing a lot of people struggle with is when to do it. You cannot go into a sighting, a scene, a safari deciding, I'm going to overexpose everything. Because number one, your images are going to be boring. And number two, all too often, the content of your frame, the mood and the feeling that you want to give in your images are not going to match this predetermined thing that you want to do. So, for example, let's break it down. Now, this could be creative thinking, but it does help. Let's say, for example, you're going to underexpose something. What feelings do you get? What mood do you get when you underexpose something? I'm thinking dark, dramatic, sinister. What else comes to mind? Angry, scary, nervous. Those kind of moods, for me, would mean underexpose something. So you will not look at two lion cubs playing in early morning light and underexpose them. Because in my mind, the mood of that moment doesn't match the mood of what I'm trying to create by underexposing. Yeah? It's visual storytelling, guys. This is what we do. We tell visual stories. Underexposure, your scene, your depth of field, your shutter speed, they're all pieces of grammar and letters and full stops and things. How you put them together is the visual language that you tell. That was pretty cool. Watch that again. No. On the flip side, so let's look at overexposure. If I think of overexposing something, adding more light to it, I'm thinking, what am I thinking? Overexpose. Brightness, angelic, dreamlike, simplicity, because overexposure will often blow out the light areas. So those kind of things to me would be more aimed at overexposing. So if I, for example, have, I'm thinking here, a big male lion feeding on a buffalo with a spotlight. Yeah, I've got a spotlight on the scene and there's a male elephant, a male lion feeding on a buffalo. I'm not necessarily going to overexpose that off the bat because the mood of that is dark and angry and sinister. Underexpose and help it underline your story. That makes sense to me. I'm sure it must to you as well. I think a lot of people know these things. I think a lot of you know when to under and overexpose, and listening to a video like this, you might think, oh shit, it makes sense. But we try and overcomplicate these things. It does not have to be that difficult. So Alisa, coming back, it's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it because it's something people struggled on our Great Migration safaris, and one of the biggest things my team and I worked on is to get people to understand how to overexpose and underexpose. That's the easy part, exposure compensation. The creative side of it is just deciding when to do which one. But if you can ask yourself or answer yourself the question as to why do I want to over or underexpose, I think you're on the right track. This is actually quite cool. This could be an interesting blog post or seminar kind of idea because a lot of people and people in the industry in my position who run trips and courses carry on about you must tell stories, you must tell stories. A story might not be able to be told in a single frame. Maybe you need a portfolio of 12 images. Maybe you need a coffee table book to tell that story. People are so hung up on creating the story that they forget just to look at the basic sentence structure of it. Go back to basics, look at the image, look at the mood you think that story is telling you, and then look at whether to under or overexpose. That's creative thinking. Creative thinking in wildlife photography is simply this. Start that again. Creative photography in wildlife photography is simply this. It is knowing all the tools, techniques, and tricks that you can do with photography and making the right choices as to when to use them. And again, the right choice is for you. My right choice and your right choice might be something different. But that's what keeps this an interesting thing. That's what makes this fun and to keep it going. Second part of your question, Alisa, if I can find it here. I've got one more on metering mode. Can you throw out on which mode to use in different light situations? You're going to have to give me more on this because the type of light, i.e. the color of light, as in golden light, midday light, blue light, cloudy light, does not determine the metering mode. For example, if I'm photographing a leopard in a tree, I'm spot metering off its face. Now, the clouds move away, orange light comes out, and the color of the light changes. Metering does not worry about that. Metering worries about the intensity of the light. Yes, technically, color, a strong orange light and a strong yellow light will have different intensities, but you shouldn't think about it like this. You should think about the intensity of the light on that scene. So, personally, I always shoot full frame. There's matrix metering. There's very, very few instances where I feel I need to go to spot metering, because why? Let me tell you. I'm comfortable with the concept of looking at a scene, knowing which part I want to expose correctly, looking at the rest of the scene, and either over or underexposing manually, from your previous question. So I just find I would rather over and underexpose, yeah, that's a simple click of a wheel, then click change metering mode, then come back, then spot meter. There's enough decisions to make with all of this technical things we have to deal with. I would therefore just have the choice, over and underexpose, and not change my metering mode. That's me. Everybody does it differently. So, and if I were to take someone from scratch and take them through like a wildlife photography crash course, I would try and do it like that with them, because it minimizes the choices you have to do while out in the field. Now, I know some of you old school guys are going, oh my God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about because he can't spot meter. He can spot meter, but I would rather minimize my choices and worry about the narrative in my frame. You do not stand in front of an image and think, holy shit, this is the best metering I've seen in my life. No, it's exposure. So if you understand exposure compensation, you are basically just doing what the camera will do based on the metering mode. Alisa, you and I need to get together for a safari because we've discussed some very, very interesting things, and it could be good fun to try them all out in the field. Let me know when you're ready. Be good fun. Anyway, good 2 questions. I like those. Keep them coming, guys. Details at the end of this video. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. I will see you guys next time.